Jinka, Ethiopia. When we finally arrived at the makeshift orphanage, located in a small rented mud house staffed by Ethiopian locals, a couple of nannies, a guard, and a cook, I was so excited to meet the rescued children. But when I did, I about broke into pieces. We were introduced to 9 kids with eyes full of innocence, children who had no idea they had been just days away from being murdered by their own families. I knew what it felt like to love a child. I had 3 at home, 2 by birth, Nikolai and Luella, and our youngest, Ruth, whom Jessie and I had adopted through the California foster care system. I understood what it meant to love orphans, children who did not have families of their own. But standing in that small compound with a tiny mud house in the middle and looking around at 9 rescued little ones with longing in their eyes, I knew it was all over for me. Although the kids were in a safe place for now, a place where they were loved, I was aware it was only a temporary fix. Many of the children had been rescued only days earlier, but there was no long-term plan for their care. The team of photography students who had discovered Bailey and had worked over the past 2 months to rescue all 9 of the kids were getting ready to return to Germany. I feared for the children's future once those students were gone. The Rock of Roseville had provided for their initial emergency needs, but I knew people wouldn't feel comfortable sending additional support if there wasn't an independent party on site to ensure that the donations were actually reaching the kids. Being a father, I understood the level of commitment it would take to provide for their needs. But as I held the babies and watched them play, I also knew I could never go back to America and pretend I hadn't seen their faces. Something broke inside me. Something changed deep down as I wandered around that tiny, dirty compound in the deep south of Ethiopia, holding those precious children, allowing thoughts of their futures and destinies to take over. Perhaps Jessie was right. Maybe she knew all along I would never be the same after seeing the kids. Perhaps there was more to this than Jessie or I could have imagined. Maybe God was at work. Shortly afterward, Yabi introduced us to Simi, a tribal man who'd been a driving force behind the rescues. Simi was committed to the children, but he had little money and knew there was no way he could take on the care and feeding of 9 kids on his own. "I'm going to need help and support," Simi told us as we sat at a local hotel, sipping Coke from reused glass bottles, and eating injera, a traditional food that tastes like a tangy pancake with an assortment of sauces spread across the top. From the moment I met Simi, it was clear to me that he was a natural leader. He was well-spoken and had a powerful presence about him. Even with his broken English, this man commanded attention. Simi was born into the Kara tribe and early in life was given the opportunity to attend a boarding school in the north. But even as he learned about the outside world, he remained committed to his people. Over the years, Simi returned to his home many times, and after his education was complete, he came back to live in the small village of Dus, where he was hired as a teacher in a government school. From an early age, Simi believed he would do great things for his people, and he never doubted that the practice of killing children was wrong. For years, he had prayed for a way to rescue the innocents. He told us the young photographers were from a small organization called Pick-a-Pocket, a group based in Germany who took photos around the world in an effort to raise awareness and to work to end extreme poverty. Simi believed our arrival and the Pick-a-Pocket photographers who helped him establish the orphanage were answers to his prayers. While we sat in the cafe on wobbly plastic stools, Simi tried to fill in the missing pieces. Bailey was a 1-year-old girl considered mingi, which translates in your language as unclean or cursed, because her top teeth came in before the bottom teeth. It was for this reason she was sentenced to death. Simi didn't allow the shocked expression on our faces to slow him down. A child can be declared mingi for 3 reasons: if the parents are not married, If the parents do not announce to the elders in an elaborate ceremony that they intend to conceive, or if the child's top teeth come in before the bottom teeth. Once the infants or children are labeled mingi, they are murdered to protect the village from evil spirits. The elders teach that if the killings don't happen, the whole tribe will be harmed. It will not rain, crops will fail, people will die. Although nobody knows the exact number, some believe as many as 1,000 Ethiopian children are killed each year because of the mingi superstition. While Simi explained the practice, I felt horrified that something like this could be happening in the world today. Although I had traveled to developing countries before, the concept of mingi was difficult to grasp. Why? I wondered out loud. Why would any parent do this? Because they live in fear, Simi explained. They are afraid of the spirits, because the spirits might get angry at them and hurt the rest of their family. And they are afraid of what the other tribe members might do to them if they do not kill the mingi child. As I listened to Simi and my world began to expand, I could feel a deep ache inside. In that little cafe, this strong Ethiopian leader forced me to confront the furthest reaches my mind could comprehend. I knew there were crazy things going on in the world and that not everyone lived or believed as I do. But this was more than I could fathom. Rich and I listened intently as Simi continued. The youngest mingi children are left in the jungle to starve or are suffocated by having their mouths filled with dirt. Older children usually have their hands and feet bound and are thrown into the river. That, he explained, was to be Bailey's fate. Our eyes pleaded with Simi to stop so we could catch our breath, but he went on. Except in this case, Simi said, smiling, negotiations took place. The photographers helped me save the children. They promised the elders they'd remove Bailey far from the village to free their people from the curse. It was not necessary for her to die, they insisted, only to be taken away. Reluctantly, the elders agreed, allowing Bailey's parents to deliver her to us in a canoe, traveling safely down the river, the same river where she was to be drowned. With a mixture of amazement and gratitude, Simi added, once Bailey was rescued, tribal elders allowed 8 more mingi children to be released into our care. Rich and I were on overload, gesturing to Simi that we'd heard enough, that we needed time to digest what we'd been told. We asked to go back to the compound. Once we had returned to the orphanage, I felt an overwhelming need to be alone. So I excused myself, went into the yard, and stared at the starlit Ethiopian sky, my mind swirling with conflicting emotions, sorrow and joy, dread and peace, confusion, and yet a powerful sense of newfound direction. Bowing my head, I asked God for help. There was no doubt about it. Hearing the orphans' stories had transformed my heart. But it took more than stories to revolutionize my life. From the moment I'd met the children face to face, from the moment our destinies crossed paths, I knew there'd be no turning back. So, while the little ones were sleeping, I went back inside and made an overseas call to the one person who had seemed to know all along. "Jessie," I said, "we need to talk."